We are back again on Speed Street. The final race of the 2022 NTT IndyCar season is upon us here out on the West Coast. Just wrapped up in Portland. But we got one more. And we're going to finish strong. And it's quite the hell of a race coming up. There are championships on the line. There are legacies to be let out. There are still lawsuits going on aplenty. I am a new dad. I was off last week, so I appreciate Ben and Connor filling in for me. I got a baby screaming upstairs. Connor doesn't have a mullet anymore. It's a whole new world we're in, folks, and I couldn't be more excited about it. Football starts this week. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL. We got a fun little segment for you guys with that, comparing drivers, NFL teams, so it's going to be a good one. But can't get anywhere without introducing, of course, co-host of this show, my pal, driver of the number 20 Bit Now ride in the NTT IndyCar Series, Conor Daly. What's up, my man? How we feeling going into the last week of the season?
Well, it's good to not be on fire anymore. Feeling better about being extinguished. Yeah, you did mention a lot of things there. There's a massive amount has happened since you were the man behind the wheel of the Speed Street wagon. I think great weekend of motorsport, really across the board, except for Formula One. That was kind of boring. And Max has already won the world championship, essentially. So we'll just give him that trophy. Congratulations, Max.
Plenty of yacht parties to come.
Yeah, many yacht parties. I mean, they can probably still even tail the end of summer, to get the celebrations going early. But yeah, great NASCAR events as well, both Xfinity and the Cup Series. The IndyCar race, I wasn't really part of a lot of it, but it was fun for a little bit. So got a lot to talk about there. Got some fun stuff to cover as well. But yeah, man, let's talk about week one of fatherhood. Do you have any birthing room tips? Is there anything that I obviously don't know what that's like, but when you're getting in there as a rookie dad, you're wearing helmets. Is there a situation room that you needed to figure out? What was the strategy?
Didn't bring a helmet. Did not bring a catcher's mitt either. I left the mitt at home to catch the boy. I let the doctors do that.
Fair.
But man, yeah, right. Yes, exactly. I compare it to like riding in a two-seater, right?
Oh,
you let the professionals, the people who have done it, they are calm, cool behind the wheel, and you're in the back seat screaming your head off, not knowing what the hell's going to happen, right? You wouldn't put me behind the wheel of an IndyCar, a two-seater ride. So it's kind of like that. And you know what? It was a lot calmer than what I thought it was going to be. My wife did a phenomenal job. She's a legend. She's an absolute trooper. But in the movies and TV, right, you see like doctors running in and out of the room, like ripping off a piece of paper from a fax machine, like screaming to the nurses. Like it was not like that at all. We were lucky, but for us, it was not like that at all. Pretty simple, pretty, mellow delivery. We did our thing, and all of a sudden the boy was there. And he's 1 week old. I've changed many diapers. I've gotten a lot better. I tell you what, that first 3 to 5 diapers that you change, that's a rough go there, brother. that is a tough deed. But once you start to get the hang of it, I was up at 2:30, 4:30 in the morning this past night, and I was in there almost with my eyes closed, bro. Just freaking strap them up. Let's get back to bed. So it's been good. Mama and baby are healthy. Had a couple doctor's appointments, just as you do, follow up. You know what I mean, after the birth, and baby boy is good. Well, Frankie Mulinaro, and excited for him to be here, man. It's super, super cool.
You know what? I respect that. Good for you guys. What a nice little week and I actually respect that you're already back on the pod. You know what I mean? This is a dedication to the listeners of the Speed Street. Had a lot of great people in Portland come up to us and say they love the podcast again, which is really cool.
Great.
And we love to see it. And I think I also have a shirt for you, Joey, by the way. The folks at the Dale Jr. Download did give us some Speed Street shirts that hopefully will be available for the folks. Yeah, Ben is wearing one there. Ben, actually, I don't have a black one, Ben. That looks great.
What great.
I do have a shirt for you, and I will have to link up with you at some point to give you that, because Speed Street's really, it's taken it's taken off really into the stratosphere. Like we plan on being on the moon very, very soon. And I'm excited about it. So it's good to have you back, and it's good to get us talking about motorsport again. And it is it's a bit of a sad week because it's the final race of the season. We have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed probably 70% of it, maybe 65. But it's been a real tough go lately for us. But in general, the season is wildly competitive. To see Scott McLaughlin win in Portland, the guy was dominant all weekend. The guy was killing it. And I thought it was an interesting race for sure. Because there was no turn one yellow, no massive accident that people were going to report about.
Complete 180 from last year.
Exactly. Yeah. So nice to actually make it through there without chaos. But you had a lot of different people go through a lot of different strategic wildfires. And of course, Scott Dixon yet again starts right in front of me in the back, and he's on the podium. So, magician, continuous miracle worker. That team obviously knows how to execute at every level. Just very, very good strategic weekend for several different people. You saw a lot of people get real aggressive. Pato O'Ward making a move that, could have gone really wrong for him and Will Power. But then he gets penalized for a little bit of a block. Scott Dixon, of course, takes advantage of that because Scott Dixon's always on the right side of history. Apart from the Indy 500 years here, that was tough for him. Sad, tough thoughts and prayers. Yeah. But it was, it was really, really interesting. I mean, did you get Frankie into watching IndyCar racing already? Was that his first race right out the gate, or
brother.
What are we talking?
Yeah, yep. First race, first qualifications. I was cranking that thing up, dude. I wanted it to be absolutely just freaking metal in my house, just because I wanted that sound to resonate in the young man's ears already, to get him prepared for when he's 6-7 months old. We're going to the track month of May, etc. So he was right there with me. I was showing him the way. Yeah, man, just super happy for Scotty Mack. I mean, this is they were talking about a lot on the broadcast, just about how he's a legend over there in Australia with the racing that he did there, and he comes over and he's kind of figuring out his way. Last year was down in the dumps a while, right? And Roger and Tim, Cindric and Penske obviously kind of get him out, and then all of a sudden this year, in year two, I mean, the leaps and bounds he's made, like really, really super impressive. And it feels like you're kind of like we collectively are kind of watching like a superstar be born in the sport, and another favorite to be heading into 2023, like a guy that's just going to be up there, like, going in every year. You feel like you talk about, Scott Dixon and Joseph Newgarden and Will Power. Now you're going to add in Scott McLaughlin in there as someone who's just like, yep, you just know he's going to be there. He's always got a chance. So I thought that was super cool. Was glad. Well, it was like a mixed bag, man, of like, for a while there, I was kind of like, can we stack them up a little bit here? Like, you don't want anything to happen, but also we were just kind of spinning laps, it felt like. But then again, it was a super just like clean race, which is impressive, like you mentioned, for that turn one kind of fiasco that's always out there. So, yeah, I mean, I was entertained. Frankie was in there with us, and really it set up just a phenomenal final race in terms of the championship battle.
Yeah, and the Scott McLaughlin thing is very interesting because I think a lot of people, if you look at his first year at Penske, right? Like, yeah, it was tough. Like he was not winning races like his teammate, right? But it takes time. Like it doesn't matter how good you are, really, because I compare a situation now. Again, there's very few people who are lucky enough to start their IndyCar careers at Penske. That's usually
right,
pretty impressive.
Sure.
But I would say take Joseph Newgarden as a prime example of the learning process of IndyCar and how difficult it is to actually, succeed in this sport, right? Joseph Newgarden didn't win a race in IndyCar, I believe, until his third year or late, like very late in his second season. And so it takes time. Like even his rookie year, Joseph, there was obviously plenty of moments of speed, right? Qualified on the front row at Long Beach, got taken out by Dario, wild scenario, big wreck there. But like it takes time for drivers to get to the highest level of their performance in, in a racing series, I think, when everyone is so good. And we see it sometimes with rookies coming in and being successful right out the gate, but every driver is different, right? And I think Scott, coming from V8 supercars, very, very different car, right? Very, very different platform. And now him linking up with Ben Bretzman as well, who I had beers with both Ben and Scott at the Portland airport waiting on red-eye flights. Actually, they were going to California. I was going back to Indy, but great to have beers with Ben Bretzman and Scott McLaughlin. Two great humans. They get along very, very well, and I can absolutely tell why they're successful. It just makes sense. And so
besides you, I'd say Scott McLaughlin, Scotty Mack is definitely the most fun, the driver you'd want to have drinks with the most, in my opinion.
10 out of 10. Yeah. And we talked a little bit about that on the download with our boss, Dale Jr., but absolutely, Scott McLaughlin is the guy you want to have a beer with. He's the guy you want to hit the golf course with. Just, a dude's dude and having a great time out in the motor car as well. And so, yeah, it's really cool to see that success, but it's also, again, not surprising. I think a lot of drivers, there are several in Formula One that you see that, like, okay, yeah, rookie year, we'll figure it out. Here we go. Boom, success. Like, I would say even like Tyler Reddick in the Cup Series, right? Took a year, maybe figured out a couple years, figuring things out. Boom, got this new car, right to the success house. Guy's been very, very quick in many, many different scenarios. So it's funny to, like, because critics are so aggressive, right? And fans are like, oh, if you suck now, you're going to suck forever. It's like, nope, that's not true at all. So it's, literally Scott can look back on last year and not have to pay any attention to it at all, because guess what? Now he's got a ton of pole positions. He's got a ton of wins, it feels like, already. And he's fighting for a championship in his second year. So, it's a bit of a long shot for him, but very impressive, year two. And I see another 10 years of Scott McLaughlin being a championship competitor.
Yeah, no, it's a long shot, but he's in it. Mathematically, technically, he's set himself up with the last 4 races. He's been on podium, win. He's just been absolutely consistent, so good, and he set himself up to at least be in the fight in the final race coming up. And to go back to your Joseph Newgarden note, CD, he's been at this for a decade, right? Rookie in 2012 with Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing. Did not tally his first IndyCar win until 2015. So you were on the dot.
Yeah,
3
exactly.
years IndyCar with Carpenter Fisher Hartman Racing, CFH, where he scored 2 in 2015, but didn't get that first one until 3 years in the business.
Which I believe is all. Yeah, I did this research when I was trying to figure out how much I sucked in my second year of IndyCar, but it was not necessarily. There was a lot that was contributing to our factors there at AJ Foyt Racing, but it was just interesting to see. I always try to measure myself, with people that I knew and grew up with, and Joseph's that guy. And again, it took him time, but the amount of success that he has had, he could win another IndyCar championship. He could have 3 IndyCar championships by Monday. You know what I mean? So it's really, really impressive to see that rise. And you'll see it with more and more drivers, over the years. So it's cool to see. We've got a great championship battle. I think it's going to be very hard to beat Will Power. I think he's doing everything he needs to do. He's driving smart. He's driving calculated. The team is doing everything they need for him. But the interesting thing about this weekend as well is how good Andretti Autosport, can be here, right? Colton Herta is, he could play spoiler to not necessarily all of it, but, he wins. That's the most points. Obviously, that's just math. And, just kind of have to see how the rest of it plays out. But it's always nice to have a cushion. Believe it or not, I've won championships before in motorsport, and always going into the last race with a lead is something that you much prefer rather than having to make up something. So it's going to be very interesting. But Penske has been so strong lately, and I don't know what they've done, but I admire how they've basically gone from being right there to absolutely humiliating everyone at every weekend, essentially the last few weekends.
Yeah, to the point where Alex Rossi says, "Yeah, we're basically all just qualifying for fourth here." Because
might as well call it the Fast Two because there's only the rest of them aren't even
right.
going to compete with the top three Penske folk.
Exactly. Yeah. No, they've been super strong. The standings show it. Championship points standings as they stand going in to the final race of the year. Willpower, Joseph Newgarden trails by 20 there. Scott Dixon in third, tied with Newgarden. Erickson in fourth. Obviously, those double points for the Indy 500 still looming large. And then 5, Scotty Mack, 482. Round out the top 10, Palou, Award, Herta, Rossi, Rosenquist. So, I think another thing that stood out to me too, Connor, from this past weekend's race was you look at the top 5 finishers. You had 4 different teams represented right there in the top 5. Right, and you look at the championship standings. You got Penske, you got Ganassi, you got Andretti, you got McLaren. You got so it's just a wider range, and those things definitely stick out to me as something that stands out about IndyCar and has all season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we mentioned earlier just very briefly that Formula One was not necessarily the most exciting weekend, and Max Verstappen's already winning the World Championship, and they've got like 10 races to go. So it's crazy to see how competitive our series is. And again, I had a very interesting group text message from with some fellow drivers the other night, and it was like. And it was kind of a sad text to see, but one of our friends, I will not name names, but he said, "Yeah, IndyCar is the most competitive racing in the racing championship in the world that no one knows about," and it's just, I wish at some point we will get there. I truly believe so because unless something crazy happens, but like it truly is a great racing series if you appreciate motorsport in general. What we have going on for the final race between powerhouse teams, powerhouse drivers, big names, big sponsors. I mean, you got, Verizon, and you've got Scott Dixon supported by a bank. You've got Scott McLaughlin with every single different livery he's had. Joseph Newgarden with big corporate sponsors with Penske and all that stuff. So, it's not necessarily a bunch of losers driving around there in a bunch of cars that have, weird caricatures of them on the side of it. You know what I mean? So this is a real top level championship battle I'm super, I'm super pumped just to see what happens. I'm pulling for Joseph because Joseph's our guy. I like Joseph a lot. But that's going to be so hard. I also like Will Power. But I just, I'm torn. So we'll see. I think Colton is 1,000% going to win the race. I think Colton wins Laguna Seca by a lap over everyone. But the rest of it,
dominant.
The rest of it, I don't know. There. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's you mentioned the Formula One and the comparison kind of there, but Sage Karam, our pal Sage Karam, just going out on Twitter and just absolutely saying, "Hey, I got my sword drawn. Everybody come at me. I'll take on all you MFs." Just saying, if you want to watch a real open racing series, check out IndyCar. I loved it. Had to retweet that from both my account and the Speed Street account, which you can follow us at Speed Street Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Apologies for kind of laying low there. I've been preoccupied with a week-old newborn, so we'll get that thing back up and cranking. Can you?
Hey, that's all right, man. You had things to do. We can have a little social media silence. It's totally fine.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think so. Got to ask you about, what really was very concerning and scary there for a little bit until you got out of the car and you were talking with Kevin Lee and we knew everything was fine. But you're Ricky Bobby, you're on fire. You're praying to Oprah there for a second. What is going through your mind? Explain that situation a little bit.
Yeah, tough situation for us, honestly. Our race, in qualifying, Portland was so close. And we missed the balance by just a little bit. The car was just a hair too free. And, that's it's definitely a team effort on all that stuff. But again, I'm starting right behind Dixon and Erickson and, they're in the championship fight. So like, it's not we're not the only people in that boat. You have to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect in IndyCar. And the race started great, had a great first stint. And we pitted to get on the reds, really fast on the reds. But lost a little bit of time in the pits, and we were trying to make that back. And as I could see it happening, so when we came in for the second pit stop, in our right mirror, or either mirror, essentially, like for Portland, for example, we were fueling the car on the right side. At Laguna, we're going to be fueling the car on the left side, because each track has its own side that you have to fuel on, whatever it is. And you can see the fueler in your mirror. Like when you're in the pit stops, you're clutching, you're full throttle, just kind of waiting on the fuel to disengage so you can pull first gear, because our cars won't allow us to get into first gear unless the fuel buckeye is detached. And so I'm just sitting there, but I can see the fuel starting to leak out of the big fuel buckeye, the giant big red thing that goes in the hole where you put the fuel, and I can see it leaking, which already means, well, we're screwed either way because we're not getting enough fuel. And there's a little like vent tube that kind of bubbles a little bit when it's full, and that was kind of like spewing the whole time. And I'm like, well, I've seen this before. Rookie year at the Indy 500, definitely caught on fire there. I've been on fire probably several times in my career. 2015 Indy 500.
Quote of the weekend, by the way.
What?
I want to put that on a shirt. If you've been following my career, this isn't the first time I've been on fire.
yes, indeed. It's not untrue.
Me and my parents were cracking up, man. It's funny.
I mean, at that point, you just got to laugh about it because there's so much dumb stuff that's happened to me over the last few weeks that it's just like, oh my gosh, like I don't even know what to say anymore.
Love the approach, man. Absolutely.
But yeah, I see the fuel leaking, and as soon as he pulls that sucker out, it ignites, right? But when he pulls that out, like I know I have to go anyway. So, and I also know that it's better to go rather than to sit, because then the fire can just burn. And then maybe there's more fuel that catches. And so I basically dropped the clutch and just held the throttle as hard as possible to do the biggest burnout possible and get to the pit speed limiter. But I could see it burning. And then obviously, it went out pretty quickly, but it was definitely a trail of fire. And then for some reason, I don't know whether the fuel splashed like into the cockpit and it like trailed the fire in there as well. But over my right shoulder, I'm like, well, something's smoking. There was smoke now in the cockpit as I was going too. And I could feel this kind of like sizzle on my right shoulder and just kind of feel the heat all of a sudden build. And, I'm obviously fine, but it was like, this is really hot and there's smoke. And like, if I can feel it on my body, it means like, well, something is on fire. But also like, we're still in the race. So we just got to keep on trucking. And now if it started to really burn my body, I'm really not sure. I thought about this scenario last night. I was like, do I keep going and just let that sucker burn, as the song says? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But I got a tweet from someone as well that was working in turn one. And, turn one is actually, it's several hundred yards from the pit exit. And we're already doing a couple, 100, 130, 40 miles an hour there. And they said the fuel buckeye, the hole, was essentially still on fire, which also meant that I was on fire, essentially, by the time I got to turn one. So it definitely took a while for it to burn out. But eventually that heat, it did unsizzle. But when everything bursts into flames, obviously that does damage. So like fire is never your friend. That's what I've noticed. And so it burned through the clutch line right then and there. And we already from that point, we knew the race was over because we never got the car full of fuel. And if the race was going to go green the rest of the way, we had to stop another 2 times instead of 1. Everyone else was going to stop 1 time. We had to stop 2 times. So we would have never been in contention for anything. But eventually when I did stop again, we came in, the fuel had the same problem, almost spilled out again. But as soon as I tried to pull the clutch to get into first gear, there was no clutch. So we were just done there. And the fuel was still spilling out. So it was a very strange issue that again has never happened to me ever. It's never happened to my fueler ever. Like and we actually don't even know why. Like we don't know why it happened. So much so that we're switching cars like for this weekend. We're switching chassis. So the car that I used in Portland was my Indy 500 car. And then the car that we're switching back to was our kind of like road and street course car for this weekend, just because we haven't, obviously the team is going to stay out west. They go straight from Portland to Laguna. And so, we don't have time to bring it back to the shop to fully diagnose the issue. So we just got to change cars, go to the spare car. But yeah, not awesome. Not a great situation. It's my first DNF for the year. And, which is crazy because we've had we've been able to stay in the fight for the most part. But the last two races have been really tough to take. So a shame, but not dead, still alive, and not on fire. Just a bit of a sunburn, essentially, it felt like. And that was that for us, essentially.
That's good. Being not dead is good. Do you have like you have any burn? Like you said, sunburn, but is there any remnants? Is there any scarring or anything on the shoulder?
No. It's definitely not a big deal at all. It was just, just kind of sensitive, like you had a bit of a sunburn for a little bit. And it was just like kind of more of like a weird tingly, like, oh, yikes, I was just very hot there for a little bit. You know what I mean? Gotcha. So not a big issue. And obviously I don't care about, I try to tough most things out anyway. So it was, not a big issue, thankfully, but, and all of our crew guys were okay too, which is obviously very, very important because our pit box was also on fire for a little bit as well.
Yeah. That always freaked me out. Like the invisible fire, like stuff and racing in IndyCar. Like I remember hearing about that and I was like, what? They're like, yeah, every time, every now and then you see somebody in pit lane, just like kind of freaking out, running like, the flame, it's not there, but it's there. I was like, wow, that's absolutely terrifying. That sounds, whoever came up with that, damn you, God, that's a bad idea, man. But yeah.
The invisible fire era of IndyCar was wild because I remember seeing that and you'd be like, whoa, these dudes they look like they're fighting a ghost. You know what I mean? But they're like actually on fire. They're out here swatting flies and rolling on the ground. And it looks like they've all had a mental breakdown. You know what I mean? But it was the days of the methanol fuel. Like it was just crazy to think about. And I'm glad we can see the fire now because again, fire does look cool, does not feel good. And especially if it's on a motor car full of fuel, that's essentially a moving bomb. So it was good to be extinguished. I will say.
For sure. Can you help me figure something out? Can you help me figure out?
Yes.
Is Colton Herta going to be an F1 driver? Is he not? What is going on, man?
You know what? It's a great question. Many people are asking it. It was quite funny. I'll let everyone into the driver intros scene. Basically, right before the race, we all get together for the driver intros, and Colton comes up. I'm talking to Marcus Ericsson and a couple of other guys. Colton walks up and we're like, hey, man, congrats on the Alpha Tauri seat. Like, nice work. That'll be sweet. And he's just like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. He's like, I don't know what the heck's going on. And it's just, because he can't necessarily, Colton, he's got a team of people, I'm sure, that are working on it. He's got, you got to hold your cards close to your chest there when this big of a deal is going on. But I will say it is the coolest thing. So there's a lot of cool things that have happened to IndyCar, right? We've got Jimmy Johnson. We've got Roman Grosjean. We've got several, exciting events. We were at Nashville. We got a great Indy 500. Elio's won 4. But one of the most exciting things to ever happen to IndyCar is if Colton Herta goes to F1 from IndyCar. I truly believe that. And I think he deserves it. I think everyone knows it. There's something special about the kid. And if Red Bull thinks that, like, that is huge from, first of all, a business perspective, because how much Red Bull is sold in America every year? A lot. I know I've had a few Tito's and Red Bulls, you know what I mean? Like there's plenty of those that have gone around in our lives. Do a couple pipe bombs at the tin roof, you know what I mean? We've had those beverages. But it's something that I think is smart of Red Bull, because I think the promotion that they could do around Colton Herta for the U.S. events would be huge. Um, and but I also think that they recognize talent, and Colton has the talent. So I'm very curious to see how it plays out. There's a lot of weird politicalness. Our everyone's best friend Gunter Steiner is still an idiot. I mean, what he's saying about, like, there are several people, which is really interesting because Frederick Vasseur, which you don't know, but he's one of the guys at Alfa Romeo, and I drove for him at ART. He was the team manager at ART when I was racing in Europe, the French team that I was with. And I like Frederick Vasseur. Nice guy, always good to me. Tough guy, but always good to me. But a couple people saying, well, the rules are rules. Like, he probably shouldn't get a super license if he doesn't have enough points. And it's a bit silly because there's several drivers in the past who have also not had enough points for a super license, but then have got straight to F1. Kimi Räikkönen, Sebastian Vettel, I'm pretty sure as well, because they all basically were in Formula One when they were 18, and they did it very, very quickly. So it's an interesting subject. I always say in motorsport, money can buy anything. And so, if there's enough support and if there's enough, ways to bend rules, they'll make Colton have a super license. And if they don't for somehow, then Formula One, the FIA, everything, I mean, it would just be the most sad and disappointing thing that I've ever seen for, like, unity in motorsport. Like, literally, if that was a young kid from anywhere in Europe or maybe even anywhere else, they'd be like, yep, that kid's getting in no matter what. You know what I mean? Sure. Like, there wouldn't even be talk of it. So I find it offensive the way that IndyCar is even scored on the super license system. That whole point system should be set on fire immediately outside of someone's yard. Just burn all the papers that say IndyCar has a certain amount of points for your super license. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And so, I'm very excited for Colton. I think it's going to be a very interesting few weeks, because then that opens up a seat in IndyCar too. You know what I mean? And then, who goes there? Is that Oliver Askew? Does Oliver Askew come back? Yeah, it's it's an Andretti seat. It's not a bad seat. So very, very curious to see what happens.
When will we know? Do you have any idea? Like, when do you think we're looking at where it's like, okay, yes, this will kind of be the time frame where we'll find out for sure whether or not he's going to be able to go over there or we'll have to stay?
I don't know, man. It's a great question. I would assume that there's going to be a lot of meetings when the season is over for us, right? Like, Colton's focused in on finishing up IndyCar, but as soon as that's over, I mean, the guy's going to have work to do, right? Like, it's like, hey, I wouldn't even be surprised if we see him at the next few F1 races, but for sure, COTA, like, for sure, the US Grand Prix, there's going to be a lot of chatter there, because again, when everyone comes over and everyone meets in person, that's usually the most powerful place to do it. So very, very curious to see how it plays out. It's something that everyone in America should be excited about. It's something that we in IndyCar should be proud of. And it's something that, if for some, and again, there's so many, Formula One Twitter is a dark place. It's just there's so many people who, I mean, I had some idiot tweeting at me that said Nikita Mazepin would beat any IndyCar driver. And I was like, well, first of all, that was comedic. I actually laughed. I laughed a lot at it. I said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Literally the dumbest thing I've ever read with my eyes. It went into my brain and went directly into a toilet. And so but that's the way they think. That's the way a lot of F1 Twitter thinks. And it's completely unjustified. It's completely it's a wiener measuring contest. Like, yep, we've got the biggest one. Like, we got everyone's better here, blah, 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 blah. It's like, all right, it's just not true. So I hate to see that.
Everyone's better. Why can't anybody beat Max Verstappen? It's maybe a dumb question, but I mean, he's won 10 races in a row. I mean, like, what's the thing here? Why, like, if everyone's that good, can't somebody put their dick out there and measure with him, or what's the problem?
Nope, that's impossible, because you have to be with the right team. There's only one guy who can beat him, and that's his teammate. But nope, he's probably not as good. It's just, it's crazy to think that this chatter can even go on. But it is what it is. We're always fighting the fight on the internet. There's always dummies all across the web. But it would be exciting for motorsport, and I can't wait to see what happens. And I do hope Colton gets to Formula One and gets there as soon as possible so he can get to work. And that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would.
And I want to buy some merch. I'm going to buy some merch if that
right.
happens.
It is a very odd thing. We've talked about it before, and I've had people ask me on Q&As on Instagram, when are we going to get you into F1? And it's tough just because like Colton's one of my favorite drivers. I love the kid. I think he's a star. Selfishly, you want him to stay in IndyCar a little bit because you see him hopefully winning multiple 500s and then just being a legend over here. But then at the same time, when you separate yourself from that, for me, I look and say all those things that you just said, Connor. I echo that about if he goes over there, that's great for America. That's great for American motorsport. It's great for IndyCar. And it'd be fun to then finally dive full head first into F1 and be like, hell yeah, Colton Herta is our guy. And we're going to buy all the merch and we're going to have the American flags out at the races when they come here in Vegas and COTA and Miami or whatever, wherever they go next. That would be super fun. So I am looking forward to that. And I do hope that does happen because I think it's great to be able to rally around a guy. And right now we don't have a guy.
Well, exactly. I love this comparison, and my dad used this comparison. I first heard it from him, when I was trying to be a Formula One driver back in the day. But it's very similar to the Olympics, right? There's a lot of people in Formula One at Formula One events that support their home racers. They go to the Spanish Grand Prix to support Fernando Alonso, to support Carlos Sainz Jr. Like it's something that when I watch the Olympics, I don't care if it's ping pong or javelin throwing. I'm with the Americans. Like, I don't care who it is. I don't care if I've ever heard of them again, but guess what? I want our guys or girls to win. You know what I mean? And that's like,
for sure.
There is going to be that because again, we see it with Pato O'Ward. Pato's got such an incredible Mexican fan base. A lot of them can be very mean and aggressive and come after you on the internet. I've experienced it before, but that's passionate fans. You know what I mean? That's passionate fans. And we need, we need guys that can show up to the racetrack, support, wearing American flags. I mean, like, that's our guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's a California kid. He's incredibly talented. The guy's a winner in everything that he's done. And like that would then, I think, take Formula One even to another. I mean, again, it's already on the most meteoric rise I've ever seen a sports league take in my life. In America, that is. But it would take it to another level for sure. And I think you'd see the business side of Formula One as well also be upgraded. So it's going to be cool to see. And I want to be able to wave American flags and drink beers watching Colton Herta, beat the heck out of some foreigners, obviously. So let's do that.
How pissed do you think Pato O'Ward is?
Well, I mean, I don't think he can be too pissed, you know what I mean? Because he's already got to test the Formula One car. He's in the door there at McLaren, but clearly McLaren they got a lot of doors in their facility, and so he's in one door. It might not be the right door. But again, let's say Pato continues to get better and continues to fight for championships like he's doing. The door to Formula One is still right there because you are with a Formula One team, albeit in America. But yeah, I don't think Colton can be pissed because again, there's something about Colton that, when he wins by a lot. And when he's on pole by a ton. And I have not seen many people do that, certainly in my era.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be something to keep an eye on, man. I mean, silly season's been going on, and I know that a lot of seats are already kind of filled and lined up for IndyCar next season, but that can give leeway to silly season for Colton in Formula One. And then, what's going to happen if he goes there? Like you mentioned, the 26 ride opens up. Can't wait. Absolutely.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like because even just to touch on the silly season side for just a second, you've got, if Colton C opens up, there's a ton that could go on there. Juncos Racing is going to have a second seat. They definitely announced that today. Like they didn't announce a driver, but they're definitely going to have a second seat, which will be huge for that team. So we'll see a lot. Who's going to go to the 10 car? I don't know. Like who's going to go anyway? Like there's still so much to be decided and so much to talk about. And that's off-season talk, baby. Like that's what we're gonna get into.
No doubt, man. Love a little off-season talk. Did you get a chance to, Saturday after qualifying stuff, did you get a chance to catch any football or any college ball?
You know what? I did. I did catch some college football. And again, I'm not a college football guy. This is football talk. But I liked that football was on. Did I sprinkle a little money on some games? Absolutely. I love doing a little football gambling. It's one of my favorite things to do. And yes, there were some very crazy. College is just nuts though, because like some of the games, like there can be the dumbest situations ever that happen. And you're just like, how in the world? Like, how are we scoring 4 touchdowns in 30 seconds? Like, it's just there's wild stuff. But just happy that football's back. It's going to be it's a great time to be watching television.
It was an absolutely dreadful weekend of football for me, and I fear that it is a foreshadowing of what's to come this fall. Purdue Boilermakers lose on a touchdown with 40 seconds left to go. They completely blow that one away. Then the LSU Tigers have a chance. They tie it at the They have a chance to tie it at the buzzer. Extra point gets blocked. Should have gone for 2. Already had a field goal get blocked earlier in the game. So my Thursday and Sunday nights were not phenomenal. But yes, it was great to have it back on. Highly entertaining, most definitely. You got college football going to 12 teams in the playoffs here coming up soon. Love that. Even though some people were shitty.
I hate to say it, but I had Penn State -3. So
hey, you know
Sorry,
what?
pal.
I'm glad that one of us was happy. Because I was definitely not. But this is what I'm working on. Whenever something like that happens, I just go and I just look at my son and I hold him and I hug him and I feel better and I don't worry about football as much. But then I put him down and then I'm pissed again. But I'm working on it. So the NFL is back this weekend. Not only is it the last weekend of IndyCar for 2022, but it's the first weekend of the NFL in 2022. Rams and Bills kick off on Thursday nights. We record on Wednesdays, so whenever you're listening, it may be coming up tonight, may have happened last night. But then Sunday, we got a full slate. Cannot wait. And I love this idea. Conor came up with it. He said, let's do a little something where we compare IndyCar drivers to NFL teams. What would they be? And we said, absolutely, let's do it. So in honor of football being back completely this weekend, that's what we're going to do here. Conor, your idea for the segment, why don't you start us off, man?
All right. And we're all three going to get into this as well. Producer Ben is going to get involved. I'll do one, and then Joey, you can do one, and then Ben, and we'll just kind of like we'll snake it around a little bit. So right out the gate, I think this is an easy one. This pairing is simple and successful, but it's Alexander Rossi is the New England Patriots of IndyCar football comparisons. Alex Rossi, I already know, is a Patriots fan. Alexander Rossi is successful. He does not have as many rings as Belichick and the boys. But there's just something about how Rossi looks at other humans, very similar to, I think, Bill Belichick would look at humans. And there's no BS. You know what I mean? There's nothing. It's just success or nothing. And I think that is one of the easiest comparisons that I think I could have made between football teams and IndyCar drivers.
Yes, I love it. Rossi, kind of guy to somebody sticks their hand out to give him a high five, kind of guy to just walk right by him.
Invisible,
just not even give you the time of the day.
Distant relative of Belichick confirmed for sure. I can see it.
Third cousin.
For sure. I'm just imagining them now at like Thanksgiving, just sitting across the table, not talking to each other. Yeah, it sounds very warm and comforting.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm going to go. We were talking a lot about young Colton Herta. I'm going to start with Colton Herta myself. When I see him and I think of Colton Herta, I think of right now the current Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay, yeah.
Colton Herta is young. He's super talented. He's either winning by a lot or he's kind of wrecking out, right? You look at the Bengals. They're young. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all of these guys, and they're either going to the Super Bowl or they're shit. So right now, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of highs, maybe some lows, a lot of talent, some youth there. I'm going Colton Herta. I'm going the Bengals.
I like that. I actually do like that pick. That's a very close representation, I would say. Nice. Ben, what do you have for us?
Joey, you actually went ahead and took the team I was going to compare to, but I guess I was more going to compare Scotty Mack to a specific player in Joe Burrow because his first go at an IndyCar, pretty rough around the edges. Joe Burrow's first rookie season, not fantastic. Comes out his second year, goes straight to the championship, starts winning games, winning races. So I think Scotty Mack to Joe Burrow is maybe the comparison I'll make then.
We can have
like
multiple
that.
teams.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's a good comparison because I assume that Joe Burrow also likes to party. And he looks
that
like
too.
it. I see
Absolutely.
it in his face. And Scott is the king of the party. So that's, king of the party and successful. That's the best.
You're not called Joe Shiesty. You're not called Joe Shiesty without wanting to party a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly.
Scotty Mack would hang with Jack Harlow for sure. I could see it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 1,000%. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to move to my second pick here. Now it's not a current IndyCar driver, but it made sense in my mind. But I'm going to go with Ryan Hunter-Reay, an American hero, and I'm gonna basically compare him or simulation or the similarities between the Cowboys and Ryan Hunter-Reay, because Ryan Hunter-Reay is a championship winner, Indy 500 winner. The Cowboys were successful at one point, but right now they're not as successful, and poor Ryan is unemployed, and I don't know why. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that I think, again, championship winners. They know how to win championships. Ryan is an American hero. The Cowboys are America's team. And I think Ryan still has, winning to do left in him. So that's why Ganassi has him as a reserve driver. That's why, heck, he might even be in the 10 car next year. That would be wild.
There you go.
But yeah, Ryan Hunter-Reay, America's team, American hero, Captain America, as he's called, with the Dallas Cowboys. Even though I know he's a big Miami Dolphins fan. So,
Huge. He was parked right behind me at the Indy 500 when I was out there at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the month of May. And we had one night where he has Dolphins shirt on, and he was just like, I don't know about Tua, man. I don't know about Tua. I was like, I hear you, brother.
I don't think any of us do.
All these are now that we're talking about them, all these different parallels are coming into my mind. So I might go off actually not what I said I was going to, but I am going to stick with this one. I'm going to go Jimmy Johnson is the Detroit Lions. Okay.
And I can't wait to see where are the 7 championships.
Okay. So the Lions, very proud franchise, been around for a while. Were successful in the past, kind of like you mentioned of the Dallas Cowboys. Jimmy Johnson, very proud driver, very proud fan base, was one of the most successful NASCAR drivers of all time, comes over to IndyCar, right? And now, the only reason that we really care about the Lions is because they play on Thanksgiving Day, right? Like that's really the only thing that's kind of in our mind, right? I mean,
and I like Dan Campbell. I'm a Dan Campbell.
Yeah, like Hard Knocks and the Detroit Lions, and Thanksgiving Day is kind of why the Lions are still there for us. Jimmy and IndyCar, love him. One of the best drivers ever. Jimmy and IndyCar, yeah, it's kind of
oval
Thanksgiving
guy.
just because. Well, he's it's kind of Thanksgiving because he's there. It's like Jimmy's like we got Jimmy Johnson in the field. That's our Thanksgiving Day game, and nothing really else. It really strikes it. And he's got his own series like Hard Knocks for the Lions. So Jimmy Johnson, Detroit Lions. Sorry,
and
Jimmy.
I see it because we could have like 5 Thanksgiving games because there's 5 oval races. Hey, they might show up on Thanksgiving. Jimmy's going to show up on the ovals and probably get a W, or at least get close. Maybe cover the spread.
It's a great call. Love it.
And I think with Jimmy too, like he's going to go out there and he wants to kick ass like Dan Campbell. He's going to give himself like a good speech, and then maybe he doesn't exactly perform like
that's okay.
Doesn't bring it. So
here, boys.
Or my teammate will drive him directly into the wall.
I was going to ask you about that.
Tough look for them over the weekend. Tough look. Yeah.
I'm gonna go Graham Rahal. I'm actually gonna again. I went with another team that Connor picked with the Dallas Cowboys, simply because
Okay.
the Rahal family's got a lot of money. Jerry Jones got a lot of money. America's team. Graham Rahal, big American. So.
I mean, that's purely from a financial perspective. That's not wrong. And Graham Rahal, friend of the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got Jerry's World, and then you got Graham's World up there in Zionsville or whatever. That's going
they're
up
building like a 7 million square foot shop up there. It might as well be Jerry's World. All right, I'm going to go a little bit. Now, this is not meant to be offensive in any way. We know that I've had a coming together a couple times with this young driver, but I am driver selection for this is Devlin DeFrancesco, and the NFL team would be the Cleveland Browns, and it's not because of the horrible allegations going on with Deshaun Watson. It's not that. We're
because you want to swing your helmet at him. Myles Garrett style.
There you go.
So we're talking about, hey, it's been tough. It's been a tough go. It could be a tough go again this year, but brightness at times, I guess sometimes, there's some times where you're like, Devlin is the underdog, right? He's the underdog at Andretti, and the Browns are always the underdog, right? You're trying to hope that they win one game so everyone can get free Bud Light. You know what I mean? Like it's something that Devlin is the underdog at his big team, and it's not meant to be offensive in any way, but that is the comparison that I could make. Underdog in the league, underdog in our league, has some shining brightness, and they're in a building year.
That was very politically well done there.
We're in a building year.
Way to go,
Cleveland
man.
Browns, Devlin DeFrancesco.
Okay, my last one. I was torn between two. One popped in my head, but I'm going to go because I got to represent. You think consistency, you think winning, you think staying power, you think the Pittsburgh Steelers. In IndyCar, you think Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon has six IndyCar championships. Pittsburgh Steelers have 6 Super Bowls, haven't had a losing season since 2003. They're the constant in the NFL, the consistent king. That's Scott Dixon. No matter what, you look up, he can start 16th. The Steelers can start 0-4, but at the end of the race, at the end of the season, somehow the Steelers are either going to be in the playoffs, fighting for the playoffs. Scott Dixon is going to be fighting for a podium, on the podium, whatever it is. Scott Dixon, Pittsburgh Steelers.
I like that a lot.
That's a good one.
That's a strong. I think that's the most accurate potential comparison that we've made today. So I like that.
Thanks, buddy.
I am going to go with Elio and New Orleans Saints. So just kind of hear me. I have 2 reasons for this. Number one, I thought of Taysom Hill. I'm connecting it to players. I feel like Elio's kind of can kind of do it all. Like Taysom, he'll play quarterback, he'll play tight end, he'll play right guard. Doesn't matter. He's going to go out there and just, I don't know, run into some people, get some touchdowns.
Comparing the 4-time Indy 500 champ to a backup quarterback hybrid tight end.
A guy that can do it all. A guy that can do it all. Absolutely. And I feel like the energy that Elio brings to the track kind of reminds me of Mardi Gras, New Orleans, So
that's yeah. And guess what? I bet Elio threw some beads at people back in the day. I mean, Elio was a man of the streets back in the day. He was, he was getting after it. I respect that. Yeah, that's very interesting. It's a bit of a stretch. I like it because I think New Orleans isn't an unsuccessful football team. You know what I mean? They are good. And maybe Jameis is going to sling the rock for them and he's going to bring them to a Super Bowl so he can eat those chicken wings. I don't know. Yeah. He's going to whatever he does with his celebrations. I love it.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Great call, Connor. I appreciate that segment. I am very, very interested to hear what the audience has to say about our comparisons here. I think
feel free to tweet us.
Yeah, I think people love the Top Gun references that we did. I think they're going to enjoy this one too. We're just we're converging everything together here. We're meshing it together. Football meets IndyCar, and we're doing it in a really fun way. So tweet us at Speed Street Pod, Conor Daly, Neb Notlaw, Joey Mulinaro. Obviously, we're all out there. Cool. Good deal. Well, you want to this weekend real quick?
Yes.
You mentioned Colton
We're on
Herta.
the Peacock.
Yeah.
Wait,
You
no,
think you're
we're on the
gonna
NBC.
No, I mean NBC.
And
Yeah, we're
Peacock.
gonna finish.
And
We're
always
gonna
on
finish
Peacock.
strong.
Yeah.
Always on Peacock, but finishing strong. 3:30. I know it's the first football Sunday, but if you're not doing multiple TVs in 2022, what is going on? Get the multiple TVs set up, put it up on your phone, whatever your laptop, and multiple screen this with the NFL, with IndyCar 3:30, and that's a nice little weird time. It's like before the 425 games, like not the end of the first round of games. Get it on there, get it going. 3:30 on NBC out in Monterey. You mentioned Colton Herta. You think he's going to dominate? Is that just the main storyline here? You think it's going to be all Colton Herta and then the championship contenders? You got to fight them off.
You know what? Yeah, I think Colton, if for some reason, has something a little extra there. But who knows, man? All the everyone's bringing their biggest gun to the fight. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. Will there be team orders from Penske? Like, let's say one guy's looking better than the other, and maybe they might have to move some people around. I don't know. Who's all the Ganassi guys? Are they gonna all try to help Dixon somehow? There's gonna be some interesting team dynamic there. I mean, I remember when the interesting thing about it is I don't remember who was fighting for the championship in 2019, but I was driving for Andretti, and obviously I was a fifth car. But sometimes there is talk of like, hey, if we got a guy in the fight and we need a yellow, or it's gonna be a code word that we use. You know what I mean? Like code word banana salmons. You know what I mean? I don't know. And there's something that that happens, and maybe we got a right front wheel puncture and I'm stopping on the track. I don't know. So we'll see what happens there. Who knows what kind of deep conspiracy people will get into, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great weekend. And before we move on to that though, the NASCAR weekend was awesome as well. We have to give credit to the folks at Darlington. The Xfinity race was insane. Everyone drove into the wall as hard as they could, and someone still won the race, which was wild. A friend of the show, Noah Gregson, big win. I was wild just to see everyone hit the wall on the last lap, and someone still won the race. So hilarious finish there. But again, that's NASCAR. Like NASCAR does such a great job, and those cars are built for that. You know what I mean? They're built for a little bit of rubbing is racing, and if you hit the wall as hard as those guys do, someone's still driving to the finish line. You know what I mean? So it was great to see. And then Eric Jones with a big win for the 43 car. That I got to meet Eric a lot because we're the U.S. Air Force was obviously my sponsor for a while, and they're still a partner of the Petty team there, Petty GMS. And so, yeah, very, very cool to see Eric Jones get the win. Any emotional story of victory in motorsport, I think, is a good one.
Yep.
So I think NASCAR, again, checked all the boxes over the weekend. Definitely checked all the boxes.
Hell yeah. Love checking boxes, man. It's great. Yeah, NASCAR in the playoffs, still going strong. Obviously, we'll finish up after IndyCar, but final race of the 2022 season, all on the line here for 5 or 6 guys going into Monterey. Going to be a hell of a race to watch. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. Do you want to wrap up here with our random Indy 500 driver of the week?
Yes, absolutely. We can do that. Random Indy 500 driver of the week. We went way back in the day. We went to the 1938 Indy 500 field, won by Floyd Roberts. And the man who finished 14th, his name is Ronnie Householder.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I did not know much about Ronnie. And now Ronnie is spelled Ronney. So again, maybe it's Roney. I don't know. But it's maybe it's something. I don't know. He was born in Nebraska. And American race car driver, raced mostly in the Midwest in the summer. He was the 1935 Detroit Coliseum midget champion. So again, a lot of dirt racers back in the day. So that's really, really cool. And yeah, the Chicago Shriners built a board track inside the football stadium of Soldier Field in 1939. I don't even know what that means, but I just read a random thing and I thought football and Soldier Field.
Yeah.
I don't even know who the Chicago Shriners are, but whatever.
Soldier Field about to be no more. Bears
Yeah,
making
exactly.
the move to Arlington Park. So say bye-bye to that. Yeah, had 1937 was his first start at the 500. And then 1938, he only had 2. Yeah. So he finished 12th and 14th. So no, not terribly bad there for Ronnie or Roni. Definitely not the first or 10th way I'd spell Ronnie when looking at that. But
I'm going to go
Ronnie
with
householder.
Oh, Roni household. Oh, let's go Roni. Because
Roni.
I mean, pepperoni is cool. And yeah, let's go Roni householder.
Pepperoni is cool, man. All right, good deal. Thanks for hanging with us this week again. Final race of the season coming up. NBC 3:30 on Sunday. Get that up there on the multiple screens. Got a championship battle for the ages going on. And we haven't seen something like this, I think, since like 2003, I believe, last I heard. So a lot of guys vying for the title. Going to be a fun one. Be sure to follow us at Speed Street Pod, both on Twitter and Instagram. Again, the YouTube version of our show goes live on Dirty Mo Media's YouTube channel, probably about the day after the audio drops. So go check us out there. A lot of fun to be able to watch and listen and hang with us. You feel like you're part of the crew, right? So come do that. Leave us a rating and review. Want to keep getting those numbers up, right? So people go in, they want to listen to Motorsport Podcast. They want to find out more about motorsport. They want to grow IndyCar. They'll find Speed Street because you guys leave a rating and review for us. So appreciate that. What else we got, man? Any final word?
I think that's it for now. I'm just excited for, final race of the season. I think everyone's pumped to see how it all plays out. And, we appreciate everyone listening yet again. A lot of great stuff. And again, we're going to keep this going into the off season, and it's going to be a great, we're going to have a lot of great stuff to cover as well, because there's still lots of other motor racing that goes on later into the fall, into the winter, that we're a little bit jealous of, but you know what? We're going to cover it. We're going to make sure you know all about it.
Even more NFL or college football and IndyCar parallels and comparison. That's the off season. But again, we got the final race coming up this week. Thanks again for hanging with us, and we'll talk to you next week when we crown a champion for the 2022 NTT IndyCar Series on Speed Street.